Welcome to the Turf Republic Hangout today, and as we approach the U.S. Open, which will be starting, practice rounds start Monday, we wanted to talk about a topic I know a lot of golf course superintendents face, and that is how our golf courses compare each day to what we see on television or maybe some member guests, one-day member guests. So we've got some great people on with us this morning. Guys, why don't you, we'll start left. Bruce, you can start and introduce yourself before we get going.
Good morning. My name's Bruce Williams, and I'm the principal and owner of Bruce Williams Golf Consulting and also Executive Golf Search. And with that, the topic today is near and dear to me. I just was sent by Golf Course Industry Magazine to do a piece on Merion in the U.S. Open, and I spent 8 days at the Players Championship down at TPC Sawgrass, so I hope to be able to add some things to tell people why they shouldn't do this at home or at their home course, because it takes a lot of resources to provide those excellent conditions that every mom and pop course wants 365 days a year.
Very good.
Okay, I'm John Kaminski, Associate Professor at Penn State, and this is a good topic for me because, you know, Merion's in our backyard. And so when the Open comes and goes, and it's July 17th or 18th, as Bruce mentioned, the mom and pops, there's a lot of them in Pennsylvania, and most of them realize their limitations, but I know we're going to get a lot of questions about how come we can't look like that, like they do, and so it's a good topic.
Good. Kyle?
I'm Kyle Brown. I'm an associate editor for Golf Course Industry Magazine. I'm mainly in here today to be a part of the conversation and just see what's going on. I'm actually here to hear more from Bruce and John and everyone else as well. So I'll let you guys do most of the talking.
Is that Pat in the background?
It is Pat in the background. Very good ear. We're still figuring out the mic end on this end as well. So hopefully we'll have a lot more of these things ironed out when we start doing more with the Google Hangouts. So
Very good. Well, you sound good. Your sound quality is very good. So let's get going here. So I'll kind of kick this off, and I guess Bruce and John, I know you worked at Congressional. I'll kind of let you guys talk about being at properties that hold the bigger televised events. I had some pro-am, some regional qualifiers, sectional qualifiers. We don't nearly spend the amount of preparation time that you guys would on some of those other courses, but we still try to put our best foot forward. So, we all face challenges at our golf courses every day, just being compared to the person down the road or your neighbor, which can be stressful at times. But, when April rolls around and we get the Masters syndrome and then the U.S. Open and I don't think the British Open really pushes too much pressure on us, but then the PGA Championship comes around, and for us in the Northeast, facing that time of year and then having a course condition like that on TV can be difficult. So, besides money, staff, course inputs, revenues, member expectations, and the sacrifice differences, Bruce, what are some things you had written an article for Boardroom Magazine? I posted it on the event page. What are your thoughts on this? What's your advice to people?
Well, people have to understand where the numbers really fall, and it's all about resources. Now, you divide your tournaments up into two separate areas. You have tournaments like the Masters, and you have tournaments, while it's not a major, some consider it the fifth major, at the Players Championship. They're at the same course every year. So they're set up to build cities, and the cities sometimes don't go down, and their turf conditions, they are able to bring in a ton of people. Then you have the course that is hosting a tournament like Merion. It will host many tournaments, has and will in the future as well. They'll set up for this, and a month after it's over and the city's broken down, then they'll be moving on and back to normal regular play. So with that, it's all about the number of people, the amount of money in the budget, and nobody ever talks about the amount of money in the budget per se. That's always the way that it is. You can tell by the people. Give you an idea on numbers, TPC Players, TPC Sawgrass Players Championship, 70 people were on the staff. They normally don't have 70 people. They have about 35, but they had two golf courses, so they brought one group in from one golf course, the Dye course, over to the stadium course, And that's how they got it done. Add 70 volunteers on that, well orchestrated, well trained, and these are not people standing around leaning on a rake. These are people who know their job. You got 140 people on the property. Add to that equipment from 2 golf courses plus from the local distributor. It's a whole world of difference. And in essence, I'm not so sure if events of that magnitude really, they do have a budget, but the budget would be phenomenal. So I don't want to steal all of John's thunder, but that's the way that it sets up. And as a superintendent at a property, if you say, yeah, but that's the Open, yeah, but that's the Masters, it doesn't go very far. Sometimes you get an outside person, as I do as a writer and as a consultant, telling them what kind of resources it takes and what their dues would be, then they get it. So I'll turn it over to John.
I think the important thing for me is, and it was in that article, Bruce, that you wrote with Matt, and he mentioned patience, and he has to be patient to peak the golf course at the proper time. And so you're looking at years of preparation, changes in direction of fairway, resodding to bent grass, moving things to narrow them up, things that everyday members won't want anyway. And after the Open, they'll strip that out and they'll go back to having slightly wider fairways and shifting them back to fair positions. The key, though, is the preparation for the 2 to 3 years and then the 3 weeks that they do their maintenance practice and agronomics to peak it for 1 week. And then in watching U.S. Opens in the past and other major events, at the end of that week, sometimes the greens don't look so good, and sometimes they die. And so you're always living on the edge, and they're peaking for the best players in the world for 4 days of play. They would never be able to maintain that for another week or 2 weeks after the Open passes. And so the way Matt explained it in the article that Bruce wrote was patience. Having the patience to start the peaking at the right time, to nail it for that 1 week, and then they go back to what would be considered normal. Although for Marion, there's not really a normal, but they go back to normal. So, yes, can you have better conditions at your course with more resources? Yes, but you can throw all the resources in the world, and you're still peaking that course for the conditions for 1 week. And if you keep pushing it, even with all the resources, you're probably not going to have living turf. And so that's the big key for me, is from an agronomic standpoint. So.
Well, let me, I guess, 2 questions, and either of you can take it. And Andrew, feel free to jump in. Andrew Hardy's joining us from Pheasant Run up in Canada. You talked about peaking and understanding how to peak. When do they start? I mean, how do you, I'm just going to put this in layman's terms for people. How do they practice their peak? And then what are they peaking? We push soil moisture, we push fertility, we push growth regulation. What are these tournaments looking to push in terms of getting these courses in condition?
Bruce, do you want to take it or do you want me to take it?
We can both do it, John. I mean, to me, a couple things I'll add quickly is the term push is interesting because push, we think that they're putting more inputs in. They're putting more inputs in relative to mowing and rolling and those things, but they're also cutting back the water significantly. So they're taking things away from the plant, and the use of growth regulators. In addition to that, fertilization, leaning, those types of things. So yeah, the plant can exist on that and be sustainable for a long period of time, but Professor Kaminski can share those things with us as well.
Yeah, I think Bruce, you nailed it. I think in the article Matt mentioned something about 3 to 4 weeks out, and that's when all of a sudden moisture might be pulled, or they might let the fertility that they put down just run out, or they might start adding more PGRs. I don't have the specifics of what Marion's going to do, but I know that when I worked with Congressional and some of the other courses in the past, they start applying growth regulators, as far up to 1 week and then 3 days before the event, and then they'll just try to keep that thing regulated. For Matt, I think they're going to start double cutting or mowing rolling in the evening, which they don't do on a regular basis. So they'll be doing extra things with the manpower they have to get the greens firm and fast, to get the fairways firm and rolling smoothly, and make sure that everything else is on point. They're probably also going to be going through a lot of test runs with their employees, and then when the volunteers go in on Sunday, they'll use those 3 days to practice, prepare for problems that may arise. The only thing that I can see that would be an issue at Marion, and I think most people recognize this, is weather. If Mother Nature comes and dumps on them, that course can handle to a point, but they've got 2 holes back in the corner that will go underwater and have washouts if they have a major rainstorm in a quick period of time. So there's a lot of it's about planning, contingency, the agronomics, but there's not much you can change in the big scheme of things at this point. It's now just tweaking to get it ready so that on Thursday, Friday, and especially Saturday, Sunday, those greens are perfect and the course is playing perfect.
In terms of logistics for an event like the U.S. Open, just not only dealing with the stresses, the superintendent dealing with the stresses of getting that golf course ready. He's got a great support staff of his crew behind him and other staff at the club, as well as the USGA coming in and helping. But the property also has the stresses of the setup of grandstands, setup of communications, setup of merchandise tents, setup of hospitality tents. How does that throw a wrench into the agronomics and preparation?
Well, I guess I'll jump in here first. And TPC Sawgrass, as I said, is like the Masters. It's a repeat tournament, so it happens year after year. It takes about 2-3 months ahead of time to set up the tents and set up virtually the buildings, the infrastructure, the power, all of that stuff. Typically, there's a couple people on the staff that handle that. Tom Vlack, Director of Agronomy, has some key people working on his staff to handle all those things. But all of us know anytime you get a semi or other big vehicle on your golf course, they tend to find pipe rather readily when they cross it. And you get a few geysers and mainline breaks and other things like that. So it's a logistical thing, and it all has to be taken care of. Nobody goes out on the property unless they've got a guide to take them out there and they know where safe routes are and things like that. Which a shameless plug I'll put in is I hope to be doing, it's my plan anyway, a piece for golf course industry that's going to be titled something to the effect of "After the Last Putt is Holed." And I talked to Matt Schaefer on my visit there, and a lot of people don't realize what takes place after the event. If you think people are not going to be careful when they're coming into an event with their trucks, they just want to get the heck out of there when the event is over. So while they're supposed to wait for somebody or follow a certain path, sometimes people cross right across a fairway, and if there's inclement weather, it gets even worse. So we'll be doing a follow-up article on that, and Matt's giving me the exclusive to do that, so that should be very interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I remember at Congressional, I worked there for the '97 Open, and all the TV lines and cables that were out, and the guys that wanted to, wheel it back up in the back of their cart, they had just a winder that would wind it up. But to do that, they had to stretch all the cable out. So on what is now the 18th fairway, the 17th fairway at the time, they just ran those lines all the way up and down the fairway, and then took the golf cart and just drove back and forth and back and forth. Now, meanwhile, this is after 4 days of intense play for the U.S. Open, and they're bent grass fairways. And man, you should have seen the bosses running out of there. Get off the fairway, because the guys just don't get it. They don't care. They just see it as a flat surface for them to make their work easy and quick. And it's kind of like all hell breaks loose after the championship passes. And so, and I think to follow up with some of the things Bruce said, there's stadium seating and benches and corporate towers and all of that kind of stuff. At Congressional in 2010, they used half of the Gold Course to set up the corporate village, and so they basically had to redo several holes. But even leading up to the event with all the tents and everything that are in there, there's still work to be done the week of practice rounds, because I remember the TV towers coming in and saying, we want to be able to have our tower shoot down the 18th hole in 2010 at Congressional, but those limbs are in the way. And so they got guys up in the tree limbing things up to, last-minute tweaks for the TV and all those other things. So the preparations won't stop until probably sundown on Wednesday. Once Thursday hits, it's just everybody's got a routine, don't make a mistake, and hope for good weather.
I was a volunteer to congressional in I'm not going to remember the year, maybe 2005. It was the first AT&T National, and I was there Monday, Tuesday. I was there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we kind of got in a groove, and Bruce and John are right, where schedules are set, and the practice rounds for the golfers are also practice rounds for the maintenance crew, and we were kind of in a groove. And then Wednesday afternoon, NBC starts showing up, and you're right, John. They showed up, and all of a sudden the tarps are coming off the TV tents, and additional wires are run, and they got cameras are trying to hoist up, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, we're trying to mow. Well, all these people are coming in now, yeah, and the TV towers are set. The other thing we did is congressional. That was before they did their big renovation. Had a couple fans on some holes, and the fans stayed up through the practice rounds, and then on the evening Wednesday night we had our congressional had their loaders out there trying to hoist the fans in and limbing things up. So it is right up to Thursday morning. It's quite an adventure. So I guess from major events down to member guests, I volunteered at the 2003 Senior Open at Aronimink. I did some other volunteering at some events, and it kind of you kind of get pumped up at those events, and then when you've got a member guest at your club, you want to kind of mimic that. I know we did 2-a-days in the morning, at night, double cutting and rolling, and I guess to bring Andrew and I into this conversation a little bit. Andrew, you hold your member guests, and I know you want to put your best foot forward. Kind of in comparison to what we've just talked about, what is your preparation? What do you do to kind of get the course peaked, and in the best condition possible?
Well, the biggest thing we do is we don't water, and you start double cutting and double rolling 3-4 days before, and you're pushing to a level that you're not really comfortable pushing with, particularly with myself here. I only have 19 staff for 27 holes and 300 acres, so there's only so much pushing we can do. And I can remember I played 1 year in our Pro-Am here, which was a 2-day event, and I didn't even go to the dinner because the greens were that close. If I had left them for another 2 hours at 4 o'clock, that would have been the end of me. So I skipped the dinner. I still had the clubs on the back of my cart. I dropped my playing partner's clubs off at his vehicle, and I was gone. I didn't even make it back for dinner. And it's I can't imagine the scope of doing it over 4 days. But the thing that's really amazing that you see about the tour events and the major championships is that they have 50 qualified superintendents, doing everything from raking traps to filling divots on that given week. And not to mention, the USGA there, there's no stone that doesn't get unturned. And they've got everything covered.
Yeah. I remember in 2003, it was Friday morning. It had rained almost the whole week at Aronimink that year. And then it was Friday morning, and because of the rain, they were doing double shotgun at 7 or 7:30 off 1 and 10. And I was on the squeegee crew for the fairways because we were not mowing that morning, and there had to be 20 of us squeegeeing fairways. And we get to 10, and it was like 6:15, and there was a bubble in the middle of 10 fairway, and it had been an irrigation break. And man, there was like 6 superintendents fixing this irrigation break. I have never dug a hole so fast, and I mean, people are flying parts out to you. It was like you were treated like royalty. I mean, it was, what can we get you? Let's get this fixed. I mean, we had to make sure, because of the camera behind 10T and the way the 10th fairway is pitched at Aronimink, you were going to see that dirt mark. I mean, everything was planked. There wasn't a piece of dirt on the bent grass, and we all went back in and watched it on TV. You couldn't see what had been done, but it's amazing, like you said, Andrew, the resources and the competence of the volunteers there. It's just amazing. So so Bruce, you had put in your article kind of understanding your what your golf course is. So I guess as a message to superintendents and anybody else that's watching this, what should we do when we've got a member guest we're facing? Andrew said, he's only got 19 people. I know when I was at golf courses, we didn't have volunteers come in, and in a lot of cases we could not increase our overtime. It was do it on the budget you've got. So guys that are looking to really ramp their courses up for member guests, and John, feel free to chime in. What advice do you have?
Well, for me, it's do the best you can with what you've got. And with the powers to be within your club, whether it be a private owner, a board of directors, a green chairman, or whatever, and if they say, well, we want the greens to be 13 foot on the stimp meter, I think it's really important that golf course superintendents say, we can do that, but here's the resources it takes to do that. Are you willing to sign off on this, that we're going to, quadruple cut the greens and, quadruple roll the greens and, spend overtime, do multiple shifts, et cetera, et cetera. And oftentimes that is the telling tale. Every golf facility has their U.S. Open. That's what I always like to say in my seminars. And when I say they have their U.S. Open, it's their member guest, it's their Pro-Am, it's whatever they choose to have it, and they ramp up for those events. There's certain ways to ramp up for those events. Fresh cups, fresh flag sticks, freshly painted, fresh flags that are out there, making sure that all the edging and trimming is done along the cart paths and weed eating. That's not about life or death situations for turf on greens, but it's stuff that somebody can do to primp up their golf course and make it special. Make sure the flower beds look good. Then when it comes to the golf course itself, it's, here's what we can do with the manpower we have. We don't have 4 triplex greens mowers. We've got 2 walking greens mowers, and we can only facilitate a certain amount of things. If you want to do it, we'll lease, we'll rent. I don't think anybody really understands, and I was going to mention it earlier, TPC Sawgrass had 10 inches of rain 4 days before the tournament, 5 days before the tournament. I was there for the rain. The course was underwater. It was flooded. Amazing what 8 inches of sand-capped fairways will do. Amazing what greens that have precision air system will do when you flip a switch and drain those greens. So again, I think that you have to sit down and face the realities at a particular facility. We can't have champagne on a beer budget, and I don't think enough guys do that. They say, okay, boss, whatever you want, we'll make it fast, we'll make it firm. But I think that the powers to be and the owners need to know what that entails in terms of resources to do that.
So what I guess if we could leave with a message, if a superintendent is approached by a member, next Monday, he's in getting coffee at the clubhouse, and the member says, why couldn't we look like Marion? Why can't our member guests be like that? Obviously you wouldn't have 45 minutes, or maybe he would give you that gesture of 45 minutes to kind of explain, but what's that 2-minute elevator pitch that superintendents could give their members or people they encounter when asked that question?
It's all about the resources. You can have a 2-minute answer to that question. Are you aware of the fact that they have 100 and some people out on that golf course? Are you aware of the fact that they take 3 years to prep to get ready for that 1 week? Are you aware of the fact that they don't sustain those conditions? And maybe not say are you aware of the fact, but you might not know the following, and list 4, 5, 6 different items. And I think I've done that in some of the articles that I've written. Here's the bullet points of, the grass is not always greener down the street. It might be for that week, but they put a lot of emphasis and effort into it.
John, you have anything to kind of?
Actually, I like what Bruce said about the fresh flag sticks or freshly painted flag sticks, all of that. I get a kick out of going to some of the places. The one noticeable thing that all the members see and get excited about is when they paint hole in white around the cup. So, like, if there's one piece of advice that I could give the everyday golf course that doesn't normally do that, paint that for the tournament, and they'll think that they're playing the U.S. Open at your course. Something as simple as that can make all the difference. It just looks professional.
Yeah. I used to do that every day for, as long as I've been a superintendent. The cup paint is dirt cheap, and to me, it's literally like an extra 15 seconds to paint the cup. So it's just a nice touch to do every day. I like the extra flags, and Bruce, you'd mentioned the flower beds and stuff. A lot of the member guests, they start as the guest pulls in the clubhouse, and that's something. I was at Augusta, and these I was fortunate enough to visit Augusta one year for the Masters and volunteering at all these other clubs, and it was amazing the amount of detail that went into the clubhouse every morning, as well as the golf course preparation. I mean, it was intense. So that's a great takeaway point. So, well, guys, I didn't want to be on too long. I think this is a great time to wrap up. This has been some great information. I guess we'll start with Andrew. And Kyle, feel free to chime in closing if you have anything to add. But if you want to leave anybody with any closing points on the topics we discussed today, or mention anything else, that would be great. So, Andrew, go ahead.
This is a great conversation, given that the email I received this morning from one of my players who essentially asked for his money back because of subpar conditions. And it's interesting that people they put $100 down and they expect Marion, and it's Mother Nature's been nasty to us this spring, and we're, for those of you that have seen my blog post, we're on the road to recovery, and we're almost there. But it's very dealing with players is always fun.
Bruce?
Well, I think the thing is a couple things is that great to have this Turf Republic Google Hangout. I want to thank my box next to me, Dr. John Kaminski, and Larry Stoll for getting me involved in some of the Google Hangouts. And maybe it's because I've got a little bit more spare time these days. Not really. But I really enjoy them, and I'd like to see all of us encourage other people to listen in and get this information. It really gets down to communication, and so the whole position of, why can't we be like the course down the street? You don't just shrug your shoulders and say, I don't know, we don't have the money. So you better have that elevator speech of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bullet points, and don't be all negative. Be to the point where, well, we can't do the following because we don't have the resources, but we can do the following, and we do the following, and that's what we plan to do. Any event that ever takes place in the clubhouse, for anybody who's had any dealings with that, you want silverware, we'll get it for you. It just costs money. You want napkins that are made out of silk, we'll get it for you. It just costs money. It's no different out on the golf course. And the people we work for are business people. We just have to make them understand that. Sadly, as superintendents, and I'm guilty of it too, we're always, whatever it takes, bring it on. I can take care of it. I can handle it. Sometimes you just got to say no and say, we can do it, but we can't do it unless we get the resources we need.
Very good. John?
Yeah, from my perspective, I would say just, keep in mind that these tournaments and championships are set up years in advance to peak for 1 week that you're watching on TV, and that goes back to resources. But I did want to mention, Bill, I usually host these things because I'm on turf diseases, but I did want to mention the joining of turf diseases and Turf Republic so that people were aware of that. That's awesome. I'm glad to partner with you guys, and hopefully it'll take the site to the next level, and I'll be hands-free on some of the back-end stuff now and focus on content. And I did want to, I couldn't get off of here without pushing Turf Path, so our new app that came out, TURFPATH, download that. We're almost up to about 3,000 active users, which is awesome. So that's it. Thanks for inviting me, Bill.
Very cool. Kyle, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I really do think this was a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate being a part of this. But it is really great that you guys are talking so much about how important it is for superintendents to be able to communicate those needs to their members and to the people that are actually taking a look at in charge of these things as well. Because it's so easy to just not say anything and just try to put your head down and move on. So I really think it's great that we're talking more about that. And Bruce, we'll need to we'll chat sometime coming up here about some articles that we can do about that to keep that in the forefront as well. So thanks so much.
Very good. Well, guys, thank you. I guess I'll close with this. This has been fantastic. The information here is great. Hopefully we get some tags set correctly on YouTube and get some of the golfers to take a look at this. In terms of Turf Republic, we are pumped to have John and Turf Diseases on board. We're also, I'll give a little plug here, we're going to have a fantastic social media interactive page for the U.S. Open through Turf Republic. We got some great things lined up. We're going to open that up Monday morning. We got a little intro, little teaser for that should be open in the next 24 or 48 hours. And one of the assets on that page is it's going to provide the superintendent with the ability to send out some information in terms of what it takes to prepare a golf course like Marion for an event like the U.S. Open. No specifics, but just those little elevator pitches, kind of what Bruce mentioned, that we can get these little blurbs out to the golf world to basically say, hey, we can do this. It just takes some resources. And if we want something like the U.S. Open, it takes an enormous amount of resources. So, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time. I know we're kind of all over the country today, but this has been fantastic. Everyone, appreciate you tuning in, and good luck to everyone working at Marion next week. You guys will put on a great show. Looking forward to visiting on Monday. We'll take care.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. Good job.